When solving equations, your first step always has to be to look for any grouping and use a distributive property to break up groups. How do I tell distributive property is if I look at my screen here, I have a number that is right next to a parentheses. How I read this is two groups of the opposite of x minus 3. So two groups of the opposite of x minus 3, I'm taking 2 times the opposite of x, which would be the opposite of two groups of x, and also two groups of minus 3, which is minus 6. I'm going to continue the rest of my problem just as it is seen. Now I want to look to see if I can combine any terms or zero anything out. So if I look at this problem, I see I have the opposite of 2x and minus 4x. So really that is 2 red x's and 4 red x's. So altogether that is 6 red x's, or the opposite of a 6x minus 6 equals 24. Now remember, the ultimate goal is to get x on one side and your unit tiles on the other side. So I need to get this minus 6 off this side. The way I like to do it is I always flip. So I'm going to flip it to the opposite, which would be a plus 6. And if I flip it here, I flip it over here. And now that I have the opposite of 6x equals 30. Now that I have x all by itself, I can divide into equal groups. So if I have the opposite of 6x equals 30, so I am going to divide by the opposite of 6, or negative 6, and do that to both sides. When I do that, this is really a giant 1, and I am left with 1x, or x equals, and 30 divided by 6 is a negative 5. So right now, I think my solution is x equals negative 5. Which means when x has a value of negative 5, both sides of my equation will be equal. To check that, I'm going to go back to the original problem, and my original problem was right here, and I'm going to rewrite the problem, but instead of having x, I'm going to use the solution of x equals negative 5. To do that, I am just for purposes of having more room, I'm going to erase all of this. I'm going to leave my solution. So I am going to do negative 2, or opposite of 2, and x I'm going to replace with negative 5 minus 6 minus 4 groups of negative 5 equals 24. Now, I'm not using my moves of algebra because there are no x. I don't need to do the moves. I'm going to just simplify like we did earlier in the year. Remembering I have to do multiplication first. So I see negative 2 times negative 5 would be a positive 10 minus 6 minus 4 groups of negative 5 would be a minus 20 equals 24. Well, I know these two negatives together will form a plus. And now I have 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 plus 20 equals 24. And yes, indeed, I can see that 24 equals 24. That is how I check my solution. So I know that when x has a value of negative 5, both sides of the equation are equal.